Alright, so as you may have seen, recently, Doors accidentally released an early build of the upcoming Rooms Plus, or Rooms Overhaul update, featuring some work-in-progress builds of the new revamped rooms coming to the subfloor as well as a new entity. I've already made a video going over a lot of the major stuff this leak provided, but on another check, I realized there was a bunch of stuff I missed. Not only is the Rooms Plus update going to give an entirely new name to the subfloor, but I think we were also revealed what its final boss is going to be. From these leaks, I've also been able to deduce a lot of other interesting things regarding the upcoming update, such as a potential redesign to the A60 entity. Today, I want to go over a bunch of brand new information regarding the next Doors update, that of course being the Rooms Overhaul. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so the first thing I want to get out of the way is how the final boss of the subfloor was possibly revealed. As you may recall, this leak included a brand new entity that will be featured in the subfloor's overhaul, and that is Honcho. This entity is a large, incredibly thin humanoid creature that wears formal business attire. The reason they are thin is because they appear to be made out of entirely paper and cardboard. However, most notably, they are missing a head, instead having a constantly moving swirl of black squares as their face. The presence of Honcho in these leaks is incredibly interesting, as they are the only entity present here. At first, I thought this may just be a normal entity in the subfloor that we will occasionally come across, much like all the other entities indoors. However, upon further inspection, I realized there is a ton of evidence supporting how they just may be the final boss of the Rooms Overhaul and not just a regular entity. But how do we know this? Well, let's take another look at the evidence. For one, there's the entity's name. The term Honcho is used to refer to someone who is the leader or boss of a group. Given the entity's attire, it's likely they work in the office building that the room subfloor takes place in. However, given their name, it's possible they are the boss or manager of the subfloor, setting them up to be the main antagonist. That isn't all though, as there's a bunch of other evidence supporting this entity could be a boss rather than a normal character. For one, they are incredibly tall, way too tall to fit through normal doors. So, just like Figure, it's likely they'll be confined to one large room which houses them. Additionally, given their presence in this very unfinished build of the Rooms Overhaul, it means this entity was one of, if not the first created for the update. In the past, the developers have been shown to create boss entities for floors first, such as the Grumbles on Floor 2, as they were the first entities leaked for that update. So it's possible that the same schedule has been applied for developing the Rooms update, implying that Honcho is a boss entity because they were created first. Now, given their size and overall stature, I assume Honcho will be a roaming entity like Figure or the Groundskeeper, meaning they'll walk around a certain room likely located at the midway point or finale of the room's playthrough. As for the mechanics of the entity, it's way too early to tell how they would function. However, it is possible that the fact they are made of paper and cardboard could play into that. Now, all of that's exciting and all, however, you know what else is surprising? The room's subfloor is getting a new name. You see, one of the motivations behind this update is to dissociate Doors from the original Rooms game. There are reasons for this which I won't get into, but just know that the subfloor, although technically still inspired by the original Rooms game and original version of the subfloor, is going to have an identity of its own once the update releases. So it's likely going to receive a new name, and fortunately, the recent leak actually revealed to us what that is. If we look into the game files and look at the name of any of the rooms created for the overhaul, the subfloor's new name can actually be seen as well. From this, we know the subfloor will now be called the Archives instead of the Rooms, which I think is quite fitting, given how it takes place in a giant office building. Now, keep in mind this name is subject to change. After all, the Outdoors was originally called the Garden, but it was changed later in development, so the same could happen here. However, it's good to know that we finally have a new name for the subfloor. Now, that change may lead you to wonder what else about the subfloor will change, besides its build style and name, and for that, it's a little tricky to tell. As I said, Doors is trying to separate itself from the original Rooms game. However, that doesn't mean it's going to completely abandon it. This means some aspects of the original subfloor will stay, whilst others will be removed. For example, based on the leaked rooms we have seen, we know that in addition to a bunch of new room types, some rooms from the original Rooms game, and the original subfloor by extension, have been revamped instead of being completely removed. The E-shaped room is the most notable example of this, given how obvious it is to locate in both versions of the subfloor. However, the projector room is also going to return with a new look. These rooms currently aren't decorated in this leak, but that will change as more development is made towards them in the coming months. Moving away from rooms though, it's also possible some changes could be made to entities. Characters such as A90 and A120, which are mostly original to doors, wouldn't likely receive any alterations. However, A60 is unique in the sense where it originates almost entirely from the original rooms game. And given how, as I said, the developers are trying to dissociate from that game, it could mean A60 is going to receive a revamp. Now that might be a little controversial, so let me walk you through what I think is going to happen with the character. Naturally, redesigning an iconic entity like A60 is a very delicate situation, as it is prone to a lot of hate. So if I had to guess, its potential redesign would still likely look like a glowing red face, as it is still recognizable that way. However, the structure of that face may be quite different. On the topic of A60 though, another thing which may change in this update is the naming scheme of the entities and the room numbers. As you probably know, all the doors in the rooms are labeled with the letter A in front of them, and so are the entities, as their names are just the door number they typically spawn at. The existence of Honcho and how they are never referred to with an A in front of some numbers as their name leads me to believe that they could change the naming scheme of the subfloor, meaning all the pre-existing rooms entities could receive new names. This change isn't completely set in stone, but I do think the original naming scheme for both doors numbers and entities is incredibly unique and iconic, and it should stay in the game. So, to summarize, the recent Rooms Overhaul leak revealed that Honcho, a giant humanoid creature made of paper and cardboard, could potentially be a final boss we have to face in the subfloor, given just their overall stature, as well as how boss entities are typically created first in situations like this. Additionally, it was also revealed that the subfloor will have its name changed from the rooms to the archives, in order to dissociate it from the original rooms game. As a part of that dissociation effort, it's also possible A60 could receive a redesign, and the original naming scheme of the rooms, featuring the letter A in front of some door numbers, could also be removed as well and replaced with something else. The last change is one I am against, as I hope it doesn't become implemented, as it's just so iconic. So, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of this Rooms Overhaul leak, as well as what you think will be added to the update in the future. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.